You'll embarrass yourself. You always do. Don't pick up the phone. Don't open the email. Don't say what you actually mean. They'll see right through you.
Did you just hear that in your own voice? Because that wasn't me. That was the other one. The one who speaks first, every time, before you have time to think. The one we are going to spend the next 12 minutes meeting. There are two people in your head. They have not agreed on what you are for, as long as you have been alive. Marcus Aurelius will come back into this story, because he understood this strange private split. He wrote meditations for himself, often speaking in the second person. He addressed himself as you. The most read book of Stoic philosophy in the Western world is not a lecture from a Roman emperor to the public. It is one man arguing with the other man inside his own skull. Maybe you have tried to make it quiet. Silence, meditation, positive affirmations, observing the thought from a safe distance, a new journal, a better routine. For a few days, sometimes even a week, the room inside you seems less hostile. Then the voice returns with better arguments, sharper timing, and the private knowledge of everything you failed to keep doing.
You think a podcast will fix this? You think breathing exercises will fix this? You couldn't even keep up the journal for a week.
That is the move. Every time you try to silence it, it does not get smaller. It gets more confident, because trying to silence it is still relating to it as an enemy. And the cruel voice has spent decades learning how to win wars. It knows your weak flank. It knows the old wound. It knows exactly when to speak. Richard Schwartz, in internal family systems therapy, called these inner figures parts. Distinct inner voices inside one person, each with its own agenda, fear, and joy. His work points toward a discovery most people do not want to hear. Every part of you, even the one that sounds cruel, is trying to protect something. Not wisely, not gently, not always safely, but protect. So today, we are going to do the thing most people in this fight refuse to do. We are going to let the cruel voice speak. We are not going to argue with it. We are not going to shame it for being shame. We are going to listen long enough to find out what it is afraid of.
Remember the meeting last Tuesday? Remember what I said? Too fast, too much, too eager. Remember how everyone looked at each other after? I saw it. I always see it. The pause before they answered. The email that came back colder than usual. The tiny correction in front of everyone. I know what that means.
The witness does not argue yet. It asks a different question. Whose voice is this, actually? Sometimes it sounds like a parent. Sometimes a teacher. Sometimes a coach, a sibling, a room full of children laughing at the exact wrong moment. Carl Jung, in Psychology and Religion, described the shadow as the part that personifies what a person refuses to acknowledge, and yet keeps forcing itself back into life. The voice is familiar because it was learned before it could be questioned.
Don't try that on me. I'm not a voice. I'm the truth. I'm the only one in here willing to say it plainly. I remember what happens when I get ignored. I remember the cost.
Of course, it claims to be the truth teller. That is the costume it has to wear to keep the rest of the self obedient. If it admitted what it was, a frightened part trying to keep the whole life small enough not to be hurt again, you might stop treating it as an oracle. So it dresses itself as honesty. It calls humiliation realism. God. It calls panic preparation. It calls cruelty protection. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, wrote to himself, "Wipe out imagination. Stop pulling the strings." Listen to the grammar of that. Marcus was not speaking from a cloud above the mind. He was the addresser and the addressed. The command and the resistance lived in the same body. For years, the Emperor of Rome sat with a private argument no empire could settle for him.
If we are the same person, why keep trying to get rid of me? Why keep meditating me away? Why call me the problem and then use my fear to explain every failure?
That question lands harder than expected. Why have I been trying to evict a cruel voice for decades? Because that was the advice. Step back from it. Watch it. Detach from it. Let it pass. And sometimes that helps. Sometimes distance saves a life. But if distance becomes exile, the exiled thing learns to shout. Cruel voice is louder this year than it was at 15. Trying to throw it out has fed it through the gap under the door. Hull and Sidra Stone, in embracing ourselves, built a method called voice dialogue around this exact problem. Their work treats the personality as a community of selves. Some primary, some disowned, some forced into basements so the public self can survive. A disowned self does not disappear. It hardens. The way through is not victory over it. It is conversation with it.
You've never asked me what I want.
There it is. Not the clever question. Not the spiritual question. The real one. Not, how do I get rid of you? Not, how do I become calm enough to never hear you? But, what are you protecting? Pause 1.5s. What did you have to learn before I was old enough to know it was learning? Pause 1.5s. What did you save me from by becoming unbearable?
I learned to talk like this when I was 9. There was a person I remember who said something that could not be survived twice. So I started saying it first, inside, before they could. If I said it first and believed it hard enough, then it could not hurt new. That was my job. I made the wound predictable. I made rejection arrive on schedule. I've done it for 30 years. Nobody thanked me. Nobody even said hello.
Now the room changes. The cruel voice has never been only an enemy. It has been a part of you that learned a job at a real moment. It learned shame as a shield. It learned attack as weather prediction. It learned to make the inner room unsafe so the outer world could not surprise you as easily. And it has done that job for decades, without acknowledgement, without rest, and it is exhausted. Carl Jung, in Iron, wrote that everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in conscious life, the blacker and denser it becomes. He added that if an inferiority is conscious, there is always a chance to correct it. Put simply, the cruel voice grows crueler when we refuse to admit it belongs to us. What is denied does not become holy. It becomes hidden, and hidden things learn strange languages. Something changes when the cruel voice is allowed to be part of the self instead of an invader. It does not vanish. It does not become polite on command, but it stops needing to hide behind certainty. It can say, I am scared. It can say, this looks like the old room. It can say, I do not know how to protect us without hurting us first.
I've been afraid this whole time of being seen, of being left, of mattering and then losing it. I learned to attack before someone else could. I thought if I kept the wound open, nothing could reopen it. I'm sorry it took 30 years.
And the witness answers without triumph. I see you. I am not throwing you out. I am not silencing you. I am not making you into a project. You can sit at the table. We are going to talk every day. You can keep the job, but you do not have to do it alone. The next time you rush to speak before I do, I will put my hand on your shoulder. In Richard Schwartz's internal family systems therapy, this is close to what he calls unburdening. A protector begins to release a job it was never meant to carry forever. The two voices that have been arguing inside you since childhood just had a conversation. The cruel voice did not lose. It did not win. It was met. And meeting it does not make life instantly peaceful. It makes the war less automatic. It gives the next sentence inside you somewhere else to go. The next time the cruel voice speaks first, and it will, answer with one sentence in your head. Thank you. I see you. I am not throwing you out. That is the practice. 6 months of that can change the inner architecture more than 10 years of trying to silence it. Tomorrow, we meet a man in a kitchen at 2:47 a.m. who is doing this practice without knowing it has a name.